Right then, Tuesday the 2nd of September, just days to go till the NFL season gets underway. And here I am, Andy XL, complete with breathing issues. um, to go through the last of my State of the Division addresses ahead of the 2025 season, and that's the NFC North. And I'm going to have a quick sip of orange juice before I get underway. So, this is, or was, and still is, probably even more so now, the strongest division in the NFL, the NFC North. At the midpoint of the 2024 season, this division looked like it could even send all four teams to the postseason last year. And the Lions looked like the team everybody would have to beat to lift the Lombardi trophy. Ultimately, the Lions fell away a little bit. The Bears fell away too. And three teams had early exits from the postseason. But this remains, as I said, the strongest division in the league based on the 2024 performance. Um, but what does 2025 hold for these four teams? Can they find a way to be more than regular season powerhouses? And in the case of the Bears, can they build on the flickers of promise they showed last season? Right. First team we're going to look at the reigning divisional champion Detroit Lions. Free agent wise, they've lost Carlton Davis from cornerback to New England. Kevin Zeitler from guard has gone to Tennessee. And Tim Patrick has left from wide receiver to go to Jacksonville, which probably puts more onus on a draft pick, Isaac Tesla, to come through this season for them. They re-signed Levi Onwuzurike at defensive tackle and Marcus Davenport on the edge. There's no question that the Lions are one of the most dynamic and effective offenses in the league. You know, Sonic and Knuckles and Jared Goff and co. had done plenty last year, and it's not likely to change in 2025. On the defensive side, they got passed on a lot, which meant they ranked 29th in pass attempts against them last season. They also ranked 30th for yardage conceded. Interestingly, they do not give up TDs to the pass, but do to the run. So, on the basis of that, the blueprint for scoring against the Lions seems to be pass to get downfield and then punch it in on the ground. Now, some of that will be partly or largely down to teams needing to keep pace with the Lions scoring wise, but whilst giving up the number of pass plays and yardage is of concern, it would be less concerning if they could bend but not break by stopping teams punching it in via the run. Yes, they can improve their secondary and also be more effective as a pass rush unit. If they keep the likes of Aiden Hutchinson healthy, but beefing up at defensive tackle by using their first round draft pick on Tyleek Williams looks a really good move by the Lions, as he's particularly adept against the run. Or orange juice here. My voice is not behaving itself this evening. Right. The defense, as I said, was decimated by injury last season. You had the Hutchinson injury, um, but also Davenport as well was out for a lot past season. Losing Onwuzurike to injury is a blow, though. They've lost him already, so that has got to be a blow to them before the even season gets underway. They've got a couple of ball hawks at safety, and the key is probably getting the pass rush back to full power to get this defence back amongst the best in the league. Um, Kevin Zeitler's gone from a guard, as I said, and he's at age 34. That's probably a decent move. Tate Ratledge and Miles Frazier were picked up in the draft to fill that void. DJ Reed has arrived to replace Carlton Davis, but the Lions secondary still needs to improve next season to get them deep into the postseason. The Lions have done some really good work this off-season, but one issue remains of major concern, and that is Jared Goff. When he is good, he is really good, but when he is bad, he can be atrocious in terms of throwing multiple interceptions in the same game. He has thrown 12 interceptions last season, but the penchant for them to come in bunchings will remain a major concern until it stops happening, if it does. He threw 5 against Houston in week 9, but the 3 against the Commanders were as a large part of the reason why they fell at the first hurdle in the postseason. So in both those games, the Lions trailed. So it has all the indications Goff pushing the limits to breaking point rather than making the right throws regardless of the situation. If they have a stellar running game and defense that limits the times Goff will be in these situations, but when they are, he needs to avoid literally throwing the game away if the Lions are to be trusted championship contenders going forward. Goff keeping the pass rushers healthy and their secondary will be the deciding factors for how long this Lions season is in 2025. But despite all the coordinator changes, they've lost both offensive and defensive coordinators to go to head coaching roles. They still are one of the favourites, if not the favourites, to win this division in 2025. So behind them in the division last year were the Minnesota Vikings, but they've had a big changes this off-season. Looking at their free agents, Sam Darnold, the quarterback, went to Seattle. Offensive tackle Cam Robinson went to Houston. Cam Bynum went from safety to Indianapolis. Stephen Gilmore has not been re-signed. Shaq Griffin has gone to Jacksonville. Dalton Risner, the guard, has gone to Cincinnati. Jerry Tillery, the defensive tackle, has gone to Kansas City. Jonathan Bullard, the edge guy, has gone to New Orleans. They did re-sign Aaron Jones and Byron Murphy, but plenty of losses there from last season. So, like I said, there's some very notable names on that list of pending free agents they need to make decisions on, and largely they've let them go. Just Jones and Murphy coming back, and they're going to hand the reins to J.K. McCarthy straight away in 2025. Now, McCarthy's essentially a rookie, having missed all of last season injured. On the offensive line, like I said, Cam Robinson's left, Dalton Risner has been replaced, and Dalton Risner's gone as well. They've been replaced by Will Freeze and Ryan Kelly. But the Vikings have also added Jonathan Jackson, a guard, as their first round draft pick. So, they've done enough work there on the offensive line to help McCarthy. The Vikings ball hawking secondary led the league in interceptions last season, but also gave up plenty of yardage. Add to that, Bynum, Gilmore, and Griffin have left via free agency, with Isaiah Rodgers and Jeff Okudah coming in. This unit still looks weaker than last season, and with Harrison Smith in his mid-30s and about to enter the last year of his contract, I was surprised they did not add in this area in the draft. On the D-line, with neither Tillery or Bullard back, Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave coming to replace them. So that makes the Vikings D-line look good to go in 2025, in all honesty. The Vikings O-line will be better, but a secondary could be weaker. But the big question for the Vikings is what they're going to get from the quarterback position, especially early in the season when Jordan Addison is going to be missing the early game suspended. And that's going to be pivotal in deciding if they can challenge for this division or even make the postseason in 2025. McCarthy has to come out the gate strong. So, what about the Green Bay Packers? For their free agents from last season, TJ Slayton, the defensive tackle's gone to Cincinnati. Linebacker Eric Wilson went to Minnesota. AJ Dillon, the running back, went to Philadelphia. He's been injured for a while, so maybe they won't miss him too much. And Josh Myers, the centre, went to the New York Jets, whilst they re-signed Isaiah McDuffie at linebacker. Now, the Packers were on the fringes of the top 10 in the league for both pass and rush on offense and defense last season. But for me, therein lay the rub. The Packers were a pretty good all-round team, but lacked elite talent to threaten the best teams in the league come the postseason. So they were solid, but not any more than that. Their receiver core were all good, but not elite. So adding Matthew Golden as a first-round draft pick could well change that. And with Savion Williams also being added at wide receiver in round 3 of the draft, the Packers certainly have a wide range of options available to them at wide receiver. They're really deep there. Josh Jacobs is possibly an exception, and they chose not to re-sign. Sorry, Josh Jacobs. This is what I meant to say. Possibly an exceptional running back, and they chose not to re-sign AJ Dillon. So Jacobs needs a big season for them to take the title from the Lions. You know, he needs. I'm not saying he's going to have a Saquon Barkley type year, but he has to have probably a career year for them to really push on offensively. Defensively, strong collective group last season, possibly better than that sounds, but they lacked an elite pass rusher. But hold on a minute, here's Micah Parsons. That's changed that for sure. That addition could be a real difference maker for the Packers' prospects. They also want to have one of the best secondaries in the league, although there could be room for improvement at free safety. They are pretty stout at the heart of their D line too, even though TJ Slayton has left. And they look okay at linebacker, even though Eric Wilson has gone too. So a very good defensive unit has been turned into possibly an exceptional one with Micah Parsons there. Nate Hobbs has been added at nickelback, which is another good addition. On the offensive line side of things, Elton Jenkins moves in to replace Myers at centre, while Aaron Banks arrives at guard to replace Jenkins, essentially. Anthony Belton, was drafted at offensive tackle. So that O-line looks pretty good too. Packers were set to be good again in 2025, but the arrival of Parsons make them a real threat to all, not only in this division, but I mean everybody in 2025. They look set to fight for the division title and possibly more in 2025. That leaves the Chicago Bears. Free agent wise, they lost Tevin Jenkins, the guard, to Cleveland, Keenan Allen from wide receiver to the Chargers, centre Coleman Shelton went to the Rams, and guard Matt Pryor went to Philadelphia. So right, let's have a look at the plus columns for the Bears. Caleb Williams looks good as their franchise quarterback. They have a fine pass defense, but not a lot of free agency issues to deal with either this offseason. The bad news is they're in the NFC North and playing catch up in the toughest division in the league, and that's going to be hard work for them. They also allowed their quarterback to get sacked 68 times last season. So, with the interior of their O line all hitting free agency this offseason, this always looked likely to be the first area for the Bears to look to spend their free agency money at, and they have done by adding Joe Tooney, Drew Dalman, and Jonah Jackson to completely renew themselves in that area. They also drafted offensive tackle Ozzie Trapilo in the second round, so the O-line they will certainly hope the O-line will not be the issue it was for them in 2025. Defensively, Montez Sweat led the team with 5.5 sacks last season, so adding a pass rusher or two will help what is already a decent pass offense and make it a really good one. And when you look at the Lions and Vikings in particular, you better be good against the pass in this division. So the arrival of Dayo Odeyingbo will help, but they still lack that dominant pass rusher. The Lions are also outstanding on the ground. So Grady Jarrett and Samar Turner at defensive tackle to upgrade on Andrew Billings were really good moves this offseason. Offensively, they may need to improve at running back, but Luther Burden and Olamido Zacchaeus arrive to replace Keenan Allen, which gives them a better wide receiver core, and Colston Loveland at tight end gives their quarterback another fine weapon too. To sum up, the Bears have done some good work via free agency and in the draft, but have more work to do. They still lack one quality edge rusher, a wide receiver, and ideally a better running back for starters if they are to be competitive in this division. But they're going to improve on last season and continue to be a team on the up long term. So I'll try and sum up now. I expect the Lions to be as good as they were last season, despite the changes to Dan Campbell's coaching staff. But that question mark about Jared Goff's ability not to throw in batches of interceptions and cost them games, particularly come post-season time, you can't afford that. And he has to sort that out. The Vikings face some key free agency calls, resulting in a lot of changes this off-season, and they have a question mark at the key position in the game to answer in terms of McCarthy at quarterback if they're going to improve on the 2024 show. There's a lot of change going on there. Packers are a team with really strong foundations on the other flip side of it and added some nice decorative pieces to those foundations. But once again, cannot underestimate how much of a game-changing move bringing Micah Parsons is for the Packers. The Bears have the opportunity to improve, but coming from the bottom of this division is about as tough an ask as any team could face. So if they could get to 6 or 7 wins this season, that would actually be good progress for them. Um, this will once again be one of, if not the best divisions in the league. It's turning into an absolute powerhouse. Well, at least 3 teams having a chance of making the postseason, and the Lions and now the Packers are teams capable of even being doing more than that. So for me, Detroit and Green Bay, it's a tough call who's going to win this division now. It's going to be really tight between those 2 teams. Minnesota are probably, potential play postseason qualifiers, but I really don't see him challenging those Detroit and Green Bay for the division now. I'll be surprised if they were to take this division. Chicago just looking to improve again and they're basically sailing in really rough seas in this division, so it's hard work for them. But that's how I see this division. So as I said at the end of the last podcast, just one more pre-season look now, which will be a very quick summary of how I see each of the 32 teams in terms of putting them in win prediction brackets, and therefore what that might mean for them. Are they going to be having an early draft pick in 2026? Are they going to be making the postseason? Can they make the postseason? If they make the postseason, can they actually contend to go deep into the postseason? And then who are the real contenders to win it all this season? And ultimately, I'll give you who I think is going to be in the Super Bowl and who will win it. And it might not be who you're expecting. All right. So I'll be back with that one next.